largest creditor nations in the world are in Asia now. China, Korea, Japan, Hong Kong. This is where the assets are. You know who the debtors are and where they are?
But listen, I mean, the Chinese economy is still way behind the American economy, isn't it? It's about the third the size of the American economy.
Yes, of course. They had a disaster for 300 years. But about 30 years ago, they woke up, they changed their minds, and they said, we've got to try something new. They unleashed entrepreneurship and capitalism again, and they've been astonishing for 30 years. It takes a while to go from a disaster to rival the Americans, but they're on the way.
Do you really believe the Chinese boom can continue? Because lots of people are saying there are all sorts of kind of asset price bubbles that are going to trip the Chinese up in the coming years.
Well, the only asset bubble I see potentially in China is in urban coastal real estate, but real estate is not nearly the entire Chinese economy as it was in America and the UK. Sure, they'll have setbacks. Justin, in the 19th century, America had a horrible civil war. We had 15 depressions with a D. We had very few human rights. We had massacres in the streets regularly. We had very little rule of law. You could buy and sell. You can still buy and sell congressmen in America, but in those days they were cheap. America had horrible problems, but they came out of that and had a pretty good 20th century.
So what does that imply about where people should put their money? Where are the sensible investments in Asia?
Well, the best way to invest in Asia, in my view, is to buy commodities, because the Chinese have to buy cotton, they have to buy zinc, they have to buy oil, they have to buy natural resources because they don't have enough. And if you want to invest in China and you own cotton, they're going to be very nice to you, Justin. They're going to pay the bills, they're going to take you to dinner, they're going to pay you on time. If you want to invest in stocks, you have to do a lot of homework and know what you're doing. Another way is to invest in the currency. I own the renminbi. I expect the renminbi to go up a great deal over the next decade.
But commodities are already at relatively high prices, aren't they? I mean, hasn't that horse bolted already?
No. The only commodity I know which is making all-time high is gold. Some commodities are up, yes. Sugar's up a lot. But, Justin, sugar's still 50% below its all-time high. How can you say that's bolted? Silver's going up, but silver's 40% below its all-time high. Yes, commodities have been going up recently, but they're still extremely depressed on a historic basis.
So what about oil? Do you think oil prices are pretty high, aren't they? Almost $100 a barrel. Are they really going to go higher, do you think?
Well, the surprise is going to be how high the price of oil stays and how high it goes, because, Justin, we've had no major elephant oil discoveries in over 40 years. The International Energy Agency is going around the world pleading with people to listen. Known reserves of oil are declining. It's not good news. And unless somebody discovers a lot of oil very quickly, prices are going to go much higher over the next decade.
How high do you think the oil price could go then?
Justin, the price of oil is going to make new highs. It will go over $150 a barrel. It will probably go over $200 a barrel.
Over $200 a barrel? I mean, that's a world record high, isn't it?
Of course it is, but just the world's running out of known reserves of oil. Maybe there's a lot of oil in the world, but if there is, we don't know where it is or how to get to it.
You've got the pre-salt deposits off the coast of Brazil. There's Arctic oil. I mean, there are big reserves of oil yet to be tapped, aren't there?
Justin, those reserves off the coast of Brazil are wonderful if you own them, but even the wildest and most optimistic estimates would only add 1 year's reserves to the world. The world is using 86 million barrels of oil every day, Justin, and even if it stays static or goes down a little bit, those finds off Brazil, you'll make somebody rich, but they're not going to solve the world's problems. And if you know of a lot of oil in the Arctic, please tell us where it is, but it's going to be very difficult to get it out of there.
And what other things should people be looking out for, do you think, Jim?
Well, there are many parts of the world economy which are going to do well no matter what happens. Chinese agriculture is going to boom because Mao Zedong ruined agriculture in China, and now they're spending huge amounts of money trying to solve the problem. Water is going to be a great growth industry because India has a huge water problem, China does, America does. Many places have big water problems, so huge fortunes will be made in water in the future. Chinese tourism is going to boom. They have not been able to travel for about 300 years. Now they can get passports easily. They can take money out of the country. And Justin, there are 1,300,000,000 of them. They want to see their own country and they want to see the world. It's going to be a great growth industry.
You've said that obviously there are going to be issues for water for countries like China and India in the future. How would you make money out of the kind of water demand that there is in many developing countries?
Well, Justin, countries can survive civil war, epidemics, all sorts of things. But one thing that countries cannot survive is if they run out of water. And China has a terrible water problem in the north, as does India, which has an even worse problem. So if you can figure out a way to transport it, pump it, clean it, whatever you got to do, you will make a lot of money in water. I would not suggest you own water, because if you own water, when things get really bad, the politicians will sneer and say, "You filthy, horrible capitalist, you're making money off people's God-given right to water." And if you're lucky, they'll hang you in the city square. But if you can solve the water problems, they'll build a monument to you in the city square, and you'll be extremely rich.